Greetings and congratulations. 3 years ago, you started your law school careers in this very room. I remember it so well. You were all dressed up in suits, having just completed a rigorous week one. To my great surprise and delight, many of you had found new friends in your sections. I knew the class of 2021 would be special, memorable, and I was right, just not for the reasons I imagined. Still, the circumstances that set you apart from other Cincinnati Law graduating classes are the very ones that give me confidence in your success when you transition from being students to becoming alums. That August morning, 3 years ago, Cavernous 114 was filled with excitement and anxiety. You were thrilled, of course, to be taking your first steps toward the legal profession, but also terrified, as evidenced by survey responses from that week. Some of your worries back then included the workload. Would you be able to handle it? Those of you coming from the workforce were especially concerned about re-entering student life. The community. While many of you already had found friends among classmates, some worried that law school would be full of ruthless cutthroats. How would you survive without familiar, friendly faces? And the investment, 3 years of sweat, stress, and thousands of dollars. What would you have to show for it all at the end? Now, these are typical concerns of entering students. What none of us could have imagined was that issues of life and death would be added to that list, thanks to a once-in-a-century pandemic. And if that weren't enough, throughout your time in law school, the very world around us has been in turmoil, from protests about police shootings and contestations of the presidential election to an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. To paraphrase the great poet Langston Hughes, life for the class of 2021 hasn't been a crystal stair. And yet, here you are, on the precipice of entering the legal profession, after spending half of your law school careers online. The university turned on a dime during an extended spring break last year to provide distance learning. Like you, I never imagined that a year later we'd still be talking to one another through screens. I remember carrying home a few files and papers, thinking we'd be back in a few weeks, which quickly became a few months, then a few months more, until we stopped trying to outguess the coronavirus. Thanks to vaccines and other medical advances, we appear to be approaching normal, whatever that may mean for us in the fall. Unfortunately, these developments come too late for you, class of 2021. However, I have had the pleasure of meeting with many of you over the past few weeks, coming full circle from your 1L year when we gathered in 203 for informal lunches. This time around, alumni currently serving on the Dean's Advisory Board joined us. These sessions were informative and uplifting. They captured where you are and where you're going, which I think bears sharing on this important occasion. We talked about your growth over the past 3 years, which has been tremendous. In that time span, you've gone from being tentative and too scared to speak up to feeling confident in yourselves, your skills, and your capacity to make a difference. You've gained perspective, seeing the past year and a half as hard, but recognizing, in the words of one of you, that, quote, as hard as it's been a time of huge personal growth. Seeing the resilience of classmates has been inspiring, close quote. You've gained perspective and empathy, and you're ready to fight for what you believe with the new skills you've attained. Or as another of your colleagues said, you entered law school as, quote, brawlers, but now you know how to land a punch, close quote. Your tool, of course, is the law, which some of you analogized to a new language. You see its role in the power structure, its potential to be transformative, as well as its limits. And despite those constraints, you trust the law's ability to solve problems, the many difficult social issues that confront us with a vengeance, and believe that creative application of the law leads to solutions. Our alumni participants were thrilled to have this chance to interact with you. These alums followed many different paths after graduation. Some were law firm partners or corporate general counsel. Others had been prosecutors or public defenders. Then there were those who formed nonprofit organizations or consultancies. There were trailblazers too, including the first woman and first African American to serve as United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio, the first woman managing partner in a Cincinnati law firm, and the first general counsel at the University of Cincinnati. At these meetings, our alums traveled back in time to consider the advice they wished they had received when they walked in your shoes. What they shared was personal and professional wisdom cultivated by multiple decades in the legal field. I've grouped the advice into 3 thematic areas. First, always be a student. Second, take the long view. And third, recognize that you are more than your career. Okay, starting with the first one, always, always be a student. Now I can hear the groans, but it's true. You have chosen a profession that requires you to be a lifelong learner, keeping up with your practice area, learning a new one, should you change jobs, keeping abreast of new developments in the profession, best practices, and more. Getting your JD marks the beginning of a much longer, more robust career of learning. You may as well embrace it. In a related vein, they urge you to keep an open mind, recognizing you don't know what you don't know. Being open-minded also applies to the work that's available to you. One alum graduated from UC knowing in her heart that she wanted to be a litigator, but ended up hating it. So she got involved advising school districts on finance issues. Another took a job at Deloitte when it was just an accounting firm, thinking that would be a placeholder until she found a real legal job. 34 years later, she retired from Deloitte after a career she never imagined. So always be a student. Seek the lessons of your experience. Secondly, take the long view of your career. When I was in law school, I dreamed of following Thurgood Marshall's footsteps and working for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. When they rejected me, I thought, well, that's it. I'll never work in civil rights. I'll never have a public interest job. But I was wrong. I went on to do voting rights work at the Department of Justice, then to the National Women's Law Center, where I became an expert on Title IX and sexual harassment. I couldn't see the long arc of my career. Don't make my mistake. You may confront disappointments in your career. Recognize they are just stops in a very long journey, not the end of the road. There will be other opportunities, ones that ignite your passion and align with your skill set. Our alums advised that taking the long view also means protecting your reputation, our stock in trade. It starts with your work product, big and small assignments alike. As an associate at Sidley Austin, I worked for a partner who painted my drafts red with edits, comments, and questions like, so what? I confess, at first I was a little disheartened. I'd come from a clerkship where I wrote quite a lot and had never experienced that level of critique. But I realized this partner was helping me improve. When you get memos with that kind of feedback, don't retreat thinking you failed. Ask questions. Even if there are no red marks, take the initiative to find out how to make your memos, briefs, and pleadings better. That attention to the craft will demonstrate your commitment to excellence. From the very start, your work product reflects on you, on your employer, and on your alma mater. Be as committed to integrity as to excellence for the same reason. As an attorney for the Department of Justice, I once got a speeding ticket on my way to meet community stakeholders. One of them offered to use their connections to take care of that ticket, which gave me pause. Now, all my colleagues bragged about how they talked themselves out of getting tickets by flashing their DOJ credential. I could imagine them teasing me about how weak my advocacy for myself had been on the side of the road. But tempting as that offer was, I had to say no. I'd rather be the only attorney who got caught in a speed trap than the one who violated ethics rules. Finally, taking the long view also means getting the support you need along the way. Now, you wouldn't go on a long hike without water or trail mix, right? Well, in the same way, you've got to build a network of resources. Among the ways our alums recommended were find a mentor, get involved in the bar, your community, the law school. These will be folks who can review your work, advise you about challenging situations, allow you to vent about your boss, or help map the contours of your career. Third and last, recognize that you are not just your career. Our alums want you to know that although the legal profession is all-encompassing, irrespective of whether you're in a big firm, a small family practice, a nonprofit organization, there's more to you, more to life than your career. That means you must take care of your multiple dimensions, family, friends, hobbies, faith, for example. These will help keep you grounded, provide encouragement, and a break from work. For me, pre-pandemic, improv helped me cut loose, play, and make new friends. Finally, if there are times you need help, get it. Your health and well-being matter to loved ones. The last message from our alums didn't fit so neatly into my categories. It's strong enough to stand on its own alone. The legal profession is challenging, but it's also intriguing and vast. There are so many things you can do with that JD in and out of the practice of law. Know that you have the tools necessary to succeed no matter how you define success. You have the tools to succeed. Class of 2021, I am so proud of you. The grit and determination you have shown these past 3 semesters will serve you well after graduation. I know you will make a difference in your community. No matter where you land, equipped as you are with a Cincinnati law degree, you will be the innovative, impactful attorneys inculcated with values of integrity and excellence our society needs. Congratulations, class of 2021. You are ready to go audaciously into the future.
A silent girl sits in her grassy green yard and stares up at a boulder. She knows it's really very big, and she knows that she's quite small, but rolling up her grumpy sleeves, she sets her feet and starts her pushing. All the while, the boulder sits, laughing at her motions, but she laughs back because her strong arms have carried her through oceans. I wrote that poem back in college, though I don't remember quite when. My wife later turned it into a short children's book, and we had a dear friend mock up some potential illustrations. I remember binding it with some yarn and some heavy cardstock, and there it sat on a shelf in my living room for the past 9 or 10 years. The end result was this adorable story about a little girl who's having trouble at school. When she tells her father about what's going on, his advice is to go outside and push the boulder in the yard for a while. She does it, and predictably, the boulder doesn't budge an inch. The next day, school is the same, and out she gets sent again to the boulder, and thus begins the pattern of the book. Eventually, with time, she begins to get stronger and stronger, and though the boulder never moves, she realizes that over time, it was never her father's intention for her to move it. Sometimes it's the struggle against the impossibly difficult that helps us build up the strength and tenacity we need to face the regular days. Lately, I've been feeling a bit like the little girl from the story. Like I've been stuck in the same spot, straining against the same challenges over and over again, but never getting a break. Like I'm strapped to the front of a boat through a storm, and every time I think I can catch my breath, a wave comes and just crashes into me, threatening to drown me again. Last March, we as a law school, as a city, as a country, we stepped into a pandemic together. School shut down, the economy ground largely to a halt, and the world seemed to stand still for quite a few months of quiet, lonely solitude in our homes. Law school, like everything else, was forced to evolve. The last year we've all experienced has been unlike anything that's happened in the history of this law school. And when we gather tomorrow, it will be the first time that this many law students have been together in one place, likely since either the end of semester or Halloween parties in 2019, which feels like a lifetime ago. Now, I am by no means going to try to find a silver lining to the pandemic. Brene Brown talks about how harmful it can be when people say at least after hearing about something awful you've been through. Oh, you have health problems. Well, at least you have good doctors. Oh, a family member passed away. At least you had a family. And so on. So that's certainly not my intent today. Rather, I'm just going to posit that we've all been changed because of what we've experienced. The past year cannot and will not be erased. A friend of mine recently observed that traumatic experiences alter us. They remove us from the trajectory of what we might have been before trauma and shift us squarely into an alternate timeline in which we are and forever will be post-trauma. We all know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, I've experienced trauma in my own life. I have moments from my past which stick out like thick bookmarks amidst the chapters of my life. I could close my eyes right now and pinpoint exactly what the events were and how in the months and years afterwards I have departed from where I thought my journey was headed before those events. Sometimes I find myself wishing I could reverse time, go back to certain moments of days of my life and have a redo. There are people I wished I hadn't hurt, things I wished I hadn't said, bright, shining exit signs from terrible circumstances that I should have seen but somehow missed. But if I could edit the past, I'm not sure I would end up here now, today, talking to you. And don't take that as some sort of sappy fate destiny thing. I simply mean that we are, in large part, a direct product of our environments and how we choose to grow in each chapter of our lives. So I ask you here at the close of this chapter, as you step out of the role of law student and into something new, how have you changed? What have you lost? What have you learned? What have you gained? What has the past year of pushing endlessly at the boulders in your life given you the strength or the determination to do? Who are you now? For me, there are a few things that stick out. First, I've begun to grasp just how important it is for me to have clear and established boundaries between my personal life and my professional life. After having law school move into my apartment with me this past year, I think that moving forward, I would like some sort of formal demarcation zone between where I work and where I relax. Second, I've realized that vulnerability, honesty, and gratitude are traits which, if I can train them to be instinctual, will save me from a lot of hardship and pain. As SBA president this year, there were quite a few instances in which I simply was at a loss about what to do or say, how to provide support or comfort or solutions to my peers. And in many of those moments, I found that the best solution was often to simply ask for help, be grateful when I received it, and to try and acknowledge when I'd made mistakes. Elie Wiesel, in his Nobel lecture in 1986, offered a powerful reminder of this. He said, "Humankind must remember that peace is our gift to each other." This leads me to my third realization of the past year. I'm convinced now, more than any previous chapter in my life, that I must be and I need to be engaged in fighting against systemic injustice in my community wherever possible. Since coming to law school, I have felt like I've been on the bench, waiting for permission or a stamp of approval that I'm finally equipped to help make systemic change. But the truth is, systemic change begins in the small decisions to listen, read, to raise your consciousness and that of others, and to respond with empathy and humility to whichever crises are within your reach, regardless of whether or not you feel ready to help. Grace Lee Boggs said, "We are beginning to understand that the world is always being made fresh and never finished. That activism can be the journey rather than the arrival." And lastly, I found a deeper sense of appreciation for stories and the art of storytelling. I found myself moved to tears in my car as I listened to the story of a prenatal nurse holding someone's hand as they died of COVID. I began to engage my own clients through the Indigent Defense Clinic and would spend hours just listening to parents swept up in the criminal system tell me about their children and what homeschooling was like. I was in classes where professors not only emphasized the power of emotion, but gave us the freedom to tell our own stories. And it's created in me a desire to be a better storyteller, which I think will in turn make me a better advocate for my clients. Now, I've spent a fair share of my time over the past year or so feeling like both we as a society, as a school, and as people have been standing out in the proverbial yard, breaking our backs to push the immovable forward. But I've changed too. We've changed. We're stronger in some way and we're growing. She set her feet and started her pushing. And all the while, the boulder sits laughing at her motions. But she laughs back because her strong arms have carried her through oceans. Congratulations, everyone. We made it. Now what's next?
Happy graduation, graduates. It's truly a pleasure and an honor for me to be speaking to and with you today. I wish we were together in person, but this will have to do, and I think it's something we've all become accustomed with over the course of the last year or so. My name is David Wilbrand. I am a 1996 graduate of the University of Cincinnati College of Law, so this makes my 25th anniversary. So 25 years ago, I was literally sitting where you were sitting, perhaps in a somewhat different configuration, live and in person, but feeling the same things you're feeling, experiencing the same things you're experiencing. So congratulations. It's an incredible accomplishment. And now you are prepared to embark and move forward with the rest of your life. And that's what I'm here to share a few words about. So being 50 years old, having been out of law school for 25 years, having walked the earth a bit, I've learned a couple of things. I've stumbled quite a bit. And I hope to share some of those reflections and lessons here today. And the theme that I'd like to drive toward or focus on or build this around is stillness. Stillness meaning silence, stillness meaning quiet, stillness meaning reflection, stillness meaning quietude, stillness moving, giving yourself grace and space. And I'd like to break it into three parts. The first is stillness in the moment. And this is a very tactical lesson that I would like to share. Law school trains us to think logically and directly with much focus and energy on what's presented in front of us. We think in terms of debate. We think in terms frequently of confrontation. We hear something and we immediately start to unpack it, to consider what we agree with, what we don't agree with, where we want to push back, where we want to lean back, how we want to adapt and move with it. And frequently, the instinct that builds around that lesson is to speak. Someone starts to say something. It could be a witness. It could be a counterparty in a transaction. It could be another lawyer. It could be a contractor working on your basement. They immediately start to speak, and you immediately start to interrogate. If you don't do that yet, you will find that you will. It almost can't be helped. It's Pavlovian in a sense. And that's not a bad thing. Okay, what you're looking to do is it's your mind working in real time, looking to break apart what it is that you're being presented with and working with it and melding with it and driving it towards the end that you're trying to achieve. And that's perfectly well and good. But, there's an old saying which goes something to the effect of God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and perhaps we should listen twice as much as we speak. And I have found that to be true. So, lesson number 1, stillness in the moment. There is a place to interrogate. There is a place to speak. But give this person time to breathe. Lean back a little bit. Create the opportunity for them to talk, to share, to disclose. Sometimes you may find that in the first 30 seconds they share a nugget that you didn't expect to get so easily and so quickly. Maybe it takes 2 minutes. Maybe it takes 10 minutes. Maybe it takes 30 minutes. But sometimes those don't emerge, and they certainly don't emerge in context and in a way that is particularly useful and disclosive if it comes from you hammering away at them. That kind of hammering has a time and a place, but think of it as a unique tactic that you occasionally pull out of your quiver, but it's not your go-to move. Your go-to move should be to listen, and I would encourage you to do that, professionally and personally. And the significant others in your life will probably appreciate me saying that. But I can't tell you how often that's worked to serve me and serve me well. When I meet with a new client or a prospect for the first time, the way I always get the conversation going is simply to say, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What are you working on? Tell me about your business. Why are you talking to me? What brought you here today? and just give it to me in a stream of consciousness. I'm not looking for a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation with 4 bullets on each slide. Just let it go, let it rip, and I let them talk. And sometimes they're done in 2 minutes, and sometimes they're done in an hour. But inevitably, if I stay out of the way and I let them speak, I learn so much more than I would have had I just come in hammering right away. You know, they get their name out, and I immediately ask, what's your position? They finish telling me their position, and I say, what's the name of your company? And that, it creates a weird cadence to the conversation. So stillness in the moment, number 1. Number 2, stillness in the day. We are surrounded by noise. It's 2021, and we are living in a time, we are living in an age where there may be no one left on the planet who remembers what the world was like without the noisiness that we experience now. Our cities are loud. Even the countryside is loud. Our phones are loud. Our homes are loud. Wherever we move, there's noise. It's visual, it's audio, it surrounds us, and it's distracting, and it pulls us away from the ability to truly concentrate and go deep. And I would encourage you, as you structure your life, professionally as much as personally, that you find ways to remain still in the world, that you find that quiet, that ability to think, to go deep. This means trying to avoid multitasking. I don't think you need me to tell you that multitasking isn't a thing, okay? Multitasking is really just a series of tasks being done very poorly. And that's what we do when we respond to the noise and the distractions. And to be fair, this isn't merely a matter of reacting to the world around us. We do this to ourselves too. Pascal said something to the effect of all of humanity's ills stem from our inability to sit in a room by ourselves quietly. And how many of us can relate to that? We don't last more than 10 seconds without without turning to our phones. We all see it. You see it at bus stops, you see it in airports, you see it in waiting rooms, you see it in law school classrooms, you see it around the dinner table, you see it everywhere. We seek out distraction. So it's not enough to simply say, the world is so noisy, I just can't get away from it. We certainly play our parts. And I would encourage you to find ways to create quiet, to create stillness in your day. Without that, it becomes very difficult for you to go deep in your thoughts. You're living at the surface, constantly distracted, looking around like a puppy, okay? But if you're going to serve your clients, if you're going to serve your friends and your significant others and your family, if you're going to serve yourself, you need moments of deep contemplation, and you can't get that in a noisy world. One that's noisy around you and pushing that upon you, and noisy in the way where you're going out and seeking that distraction. So find quiet, find stillness in your day. So we have stillness in the moment, we have stillness in the day, and then the final point around stillness would be stillness in the life. One of the things that I have found about practicing law is that practicing law is a very active profession. And this is as true for those of us who are in private practice, as well as for those of us that are in in-house positions, whether literally engaged as a general counsel or in a similar role in a company or in a law-related field inside of a company. Because of the way we've been trained and because of the sort of work that's delivered to us, matters tend to be urgent, they tend to be important, things tend to move quickly, and the answers need to be given now. Responses need to be given now. The document needs to be turned now. The answer needs to be researched and written and filed now. Everything is now. And that bleeds into our personal lives as well, I promise you. I've seen it happen to me, where you get addicted to that pace and you get addicted to that cadence and that rhythm of work, and it spills over into every element of your life. And what that means is that you're always in motion. You're always moving at a rapid rate of speed. Now, this is not to suggest that you embrace passivity and laziness. But instead, what I would encourage you to do is give some thought to a doctrine that oftentimes is attributed or attached to Taoism and is called Wu Wei. And the notion is, it doesn't translate well into English, but something along the lines of do without doing, try without trying. Some of you have maybe heard something like that attributed to Bruce Lee around be like water. And the notion is not to sit still, as I mentioned, passively, lazily, doing nothing. But instead, it's to say, don't force. Don't confuse activity with progress. If something is not ready to happen yet, don't force it. And give yourself time to work at a proper cadence and pace. This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Give yourself time to breathe. Give yourself time to think. Give yourself time to rest. Give yourself time to move. And when the time comes to move, move. Another way of thinking about it, it's one of my favorite expressions. It's sometimes attributed to Caesar Augustus, and it's make haste slowly. So be intentional, be deliberate, be thoughtful, be mindful about what it is that you're doing and the path that you're on. But when you've made your decision and when the course is clear and it's been charted for you, move with speed, move with pace, move with energy and vigor and determination. And all of those things are required, not just within our profession, but within this world. And that's okay. That's how we accomplish our goals. That's how we feed our ambition. That's how we grow. That's how we become deeper and bigger people. But we don't achieve that if we forget about the intentionality, if we forget about the mindfulness, if we forget about the thoughtfulness and the deliberation, and we're just thinking about speed all the time. You end up running into dead ends. An analogy I will give you that I use all the time and have for many years over the course of working with and representing startup companies is frequently venture capital is referred to as rocket fuel. So the idea is that a founder, an entrepreneur has an idea for a company and they start it, they launch it. And then when they are really ready to drive that business forward, they raise venture capital. And that's the rocket fuel to push them forward and propel them to the next stage. And it's true, okay? Money acts that way. That's what capital does within the context of these business transactions. But if you think about that rocket analogy and how it works so well and ties back to what we're talking about here, you need to ensure that your rocket is pointed in the right direction, okay? That you've done the work to create it and shape it, that you know where you're heading, that you've done the math, that you understand the physics, that you've done the prep work, so that when you add the rocket fuel, your rocket is going to make it to the moon or to Mars or to wherever. If you don't, if you're just racing around without focus, without intentionality, without deliberation, without care, you may get your company started and you may raise venture capital and fuel that rocket. But if you want to go to Mars and if you're pointed towards Mercury, well, you've got a big problem on your hands. Okay, you've launched, but you've actually made your problem worse. Now you've got to figure out how to traject back. It's not easy. Life works like that too. So make haste slowly. Find stillness in your life so that you have the opportunity to think and contemplate and go deep and really understand where it is that you're heading on behalf of your client, on behalf of your family, and on behalf of yourself. And with that, let me once again offer my congratulations. It's an honor and a privilege to be speaking with you today and to share these thoughts. I hope you take something away from it. Most commencement addresses are quite forgettable, and I suspect this one will be too, as you're filled with excitement about this moment. But hopefully a little bit of it sticks in your subconscious, and I certainly wish you all the best of luck and look forward to seeing you as a fellow member of the bar. Thank you.
I want to say a big thank you to my family and friends. It's been an amazing journey, and it's coming to an end.
The UC College of Law is my new alma mater, and I am very proud of it. Thank you to my wife, Patricia, and to my two little ones, Carlota and Maxi. Thank you for your support. We did it. I love you.
Thank you to all the staff and faculty for supporting me, encouraging me, and inspiring me on this journey. To my fellow graduates, cheers.
I'm Max.
And I'm Bella, and we're congratulating our mom, Susie Chiaffi, in finishing law school.
We also like to thank UC, and we're really proud of her.
We love you, Mom.
It's amazing to be here celebrating. Thank you to the law school community, professors, colleagues, and staff alike for your support even through the most challenging of times, and to my American and Italian family for your love and encouragement.
Thank you to all of my family, friends, mentors, and professors for helping me throughout life, but especially over the last 3 years. Without your support, I wouldn't be here, and I hope I continue to make you proud.
Good luck, everybody.
I am forever grateful to my family and friends, particularly those friends I met at UC Law. God bless you, thank you, and go Bearcats!
Gracias a Dios por hacer esta aventura posible, gracias a mi esposa, a mis padres y a toda mi familia extendida en Perú y en los Estados Unidos, que son muchísimos. Gracias.
Thank you to my parents, Mike and Jody McGinnis, to all my family and my friends for supporting me through these last 3 years.
A very heartfelt thank you and congratulations to the rest of the class of 2021, and I'm wishing all of you the best of the best on your new professional chapters.
Class of 2021, I want to say thank you. It has been an amazing 3 years. You guys are awesome. Hope everything goes well.